Happy Tuesday, 10 at 10. I am your host, Richard Charpentier, and we are here to answer your questions that were sent to Bakerpedia. So every week, this is the format. We have 10 minutes and we answer your questions. So without any further ado, let's get started. First question. What is the difference with MC in application and any benefits in using CMC? So now we're using a lot of acronyms. So methyl cellulose is MC and CMC is carbomethyl cellulose. So both of them basically are used. CMC is a salt version of it, and mono methyl cellulose or CMC, they're used as thickener, binder, emulsifiers, stabilizers, and MC is mostly a thickening agent and stabilizer, but the usage rates will be much higher than if you use a CMC. So the benefits is it will help you for shelf life extension, thickening, binding, anything that you need, sort of change the texture, and it will help also retain a little more water because it's fiber based. And many, manufacturers will make CMC, but they also have CMC of different strength and different categories. So don't think it's one thing and that's it. There's several versions that you can use, and always check with your ingredient vendors to see if he has one that would be specific to your application. That's the way I would do it. Much easier than just say which one works and which one doesn't work. All right. Next question. Somebody asked about potassium bromide, not bromate, bromide, Bromide, bromide. How does potassium bromide associate with amino acid, and how does the protein oxidize? Well, this is a loaded question, and I went and did some investigating and researched. Potassium bromide is used as a preservative in washing fruits and veggies. I didn't find any applications to the bakery industry, so I'm not sure if it was a mistake. But bromide, I've never worked with it. That's why I went into books, did a little bit of research. All I found is it's used to wash vegetables and fruits. But if you were mentioning potassium bromate, not bromide, it's a different compound. But in terms of potassium bromide, I don't know if it associates with amino acid and oxidizes protein as you asked. So I do apologize that I don't have more. I can give you more with the question. Moving on to the next question. How can we reduce sulfite levels in cracker without affecting dough characteristic? And when we try to reduce sodium metabisulfite, dough stiffens and difficult to sheet. So sulfites in the form of sodium bisulfite is added to crackers mostly to obtain the proper machining characteristic, like the relaxing, so you can just sheet the dough without having any issues. So the question is, if you're trying to remove it, the dough will stiffen, it'll be harder to work. Yes, it will, because the sodium metabisulfite, the bisulfite will allow to work as a reducing agent. And go to Dr. Lynn's page, you will see, ask Dr. Lynn, and even within Bakerpedia, lots of great article on reducing agent and oxidizing agents. So if you're not familiar, she's listing a lot of different ones other than the sodium metabisulfite. But sodium metabisulfite is being used as a reducing agent. It'll help machining, for machining of the dough, and help for the process. And as you're removing, the dough will be a little tougher, stiffer, as you're mentioning. So what else can you do if you're reducing it? You either start doing long fermentations, because through long fermentation, you will create enzymatic reactions. So therefore, enzyme will start mellowing the gluten and mellowing the dough. It takes time. If you can do it, that's recommended. If not, you have the traditional reducing agent like L-cysteine that's being used in tortillas and pizza plants. You also have glutathione, which the yeast extract, which is the quote unquote dead yeast, which will allow also to create some reducing, some relaxation and more machining. So whatever works best, it's very difficult unless you do long fermentation to basically get the functionality that your sodium metabisulfite was giving you. So recommendation is either start others, ferment longer. There's no magic answer. So you're gonna need it, especially the type of based on the type of flour and equipment and how you mix it. A good question, thank you. Moving on to the next question, another chemical question. Can we use PGMS instead of PGE in waffle batters without eggs? So again, acronym for PGMS is polyglycol monostearate versus polyglycol ester, the PGE. So both of those compounds are emulsifiers. They're both derivative of monoglyceride with lipophilic, meaning they love fat-loving properties, both of them. So, and whether or not instead of PGE, so PGMS is they usually work well and together, but it's also looking at where it depends on degree of polymerization and the HLB balance, the hydrolipophilic balance. So which one do they gear? So there's none of them are created equal. And it's a very, again, it's a very loaded question within just 30 seconds to try to answer which one works better without eggs, and what's the thickness of your batter, and how to bake your waffle, etc., etc. But from what I've read, both of them, there's a synergy between PGMS and PGE that you can apply together if you do more work. But as you trying to can you use one versus the other? Usually the best from product development is go try it, test it, start with a small level, increase it, what happens, and then validate and put it through shelf life if you freeze it, and what happens with the product. Because if you don't do that, there's a lot of unknown, and that's why sometimes bakers are faced with issues and they don't understand what happened. And often it comes back from years of having changed something and months of having changed something, and then the result is showing and nobody sees, hey, there's just not running the same way. But sorry I couldn't get into more details with your question, but I think do some testing and see what happens. And we have the last question: at what stage of a sponge and dough system do improvers such as enzyme or emulsifiers added? And I'm making burger buns. So sponge and dough, there's I've worked a lot with sponge and doughs. I think the typical is 3 to 4 hours sponge. And again, are you fermenting? Is this 60-40, 70-30, 50-50, etc.? So based on how much you're pre-fermenting, I recommend putting the enzyme up front. But again, it depends on which enzyme you're using. If you're using enzymes that are made to relax the dough, you don't want to relax too much up front, because then it's going to be too slack, maybe too tacky later on. So personally, from experience, we used to put everything up front in the sponge, and it worked very well for our system. For your system, I don't know how fully automated and what other obstacles you have to go over. But again, as I said in the previous question, it's always best to do it. Just put it in your dough, put everything in, put just one with just the enzyme, and put one without. So that's the way you will establish a test. Then you will know, hey, this one works better than this one. What is it? Oh, it's because it only has the enzymes and no emulsifier. Emulsifiers are going to be used really for your process as well, for dough dividing and for all of the abuse. So it allows for, better cut, so I don't know what emulsifier you have in there, but I'm assuming, and to help with the crumb, you might be better off there. But remember, enzymes, what is time activated? Things that are time activated might benefit from a sponge. And as the sponges are sitting there, you will have time to basically for the yeast to move the pH to drop, so which could also affect the way your enzyme blend or your enzyme or enzymes are working within your blend. But the best is to try it. So that's it. So it's a wrap up. So thank you for all the great questions. Lots of questions on emulsifiers and additives or different ingredients with functionality. Keep on sending the questions. Thank you for following Tuesday 10 at 10. And if you're not a member yet of Bakerpedia, please join. It's free to join. Just click in, and it's a great educational source for all of your questions. Take care. Have a great day.